of the universe, who gives the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to his people Israel and to all his people through his Son Yeshua Messiah, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Said we were going to do Micah, eh?
Yes.
Listen, I had to ask the question when I got in here, Prophet Tessa, to tell me.
It takes itself on WhatsApp against the instruction. Right. All right. So, you guys have homework?
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah, open up your... Okay, basically what I wanted to look at is I wanted to look at the outline of Ezekiel. Try and identify the split of the book, what we're dealing with, to whom we're dealing with, remind us of a little bit of the history, and so we can identify when Ezekiel was taken, when he was taken. It's interesting visions that come in, and there's interesting visions that come in, and there's we can kind of have four events that get put in line here, but also at the same time we also have, as always, parallels running throughout the book into different sections, which we're going to take a broader scope into. All right. So basically, okay. First point first. Ezekiel means what? Right. Okay. Strengthened by God, strengthened by Allah. Right. Okay. Who is it written to?
House of Israel.
Which section? When you say Israel, define it for me.
Judah.
Was it just Judah?
I think so, because if you look at it, it definitely talks to the southern tribes.
No, not just Judah, it speaks about Israel as well.
Remember, you talk about the consolation part of the book actually talks about Judah and Ephraim coming together. So it's not just one group of people. Yes, there is a section to Judah, but also to Israel. And there's also condemnations of the other nations that are going to go into. Like any good prophet, he's going to moan at Judah for making balagan. They have a little moan at Israel, they have a moan at all the other nations that are going to get judged at the same time. In the midst of it, you've got the story of Ezekiel, the man who is busy dealing with his own things as he's going through his call. Very different to Jeremiah in the field. Jeremiah, we identified more with his struggles between, with people. How he's calling, struggling with God, struggling with man. Isaiah being sent out in slightly different ways. What was Isaiah's struggles? What did God tell Isaiah when he was sent out? Isaiah. He said, you will go and you will speak, but they will not listen.
Yeah, but that's sort of pretty much common.
Yeah, no, not always. Remember, you've got different times, you've got different groups of different people, and yes, you have a common theme, but with Isaiah, it was even more so. That was part of his call. Congratulations, you're going to be a prophet that no one's going to listen to. Carry on. Alright? That's literally how he identifies the book and what his call is. So you can go and shout, and you can go and intercede, you can go do it. And with Jeremiah, you have something different. Jeremiah, where was Jeremiah from? Give me the town. Let's back up those brain cells.
Jerusalem. Oh, Joe, where it was from?
Yeah, where was his town? It was Levitical city that gives you everyone. Right. Another thought was that Levitical city, so he was also a priest, prophet, and he was told that even if you intercede, my boy, I'm not going to listen. So you've got a prophet who gets to speak, but no one will hear. You get a priest who's not allowed to intercede, and you get Ezekiel. Okay, so you're looking at three major prophets. They get packed in that section of the Nevi'im. In that, because why? Is Ezekiel more of a prophet than Hosea?
No, I don't think so.
No. Is Isaiah more of a prophet than Daniel? Okay, so then why do we have the split between major and minor prophets again?
Because of the time, whether they
Purely, yeah?
Sorry, I thought it was more of a case of the timeline they lived in.
Well, no, not to do with the timelines. Your major prophets and your minor prophets are simply put there because of the size of the books they give.
I was going to say that, I thought, no, that's just...
That sounds too simple.
That's just
No,
silly.
that's just silly, I thought, because the books are big. No, just don't say that.
Yeah, I'm just incorrect. They were actually putting it on because of the size of the scrolls that they were actually given. Okay? Each prophet was called to prophesy at a time specifically. There's not whether it's 5 words from God or whether it's 60 chapters of what they had to deal with. It's still ultimately from God. Right? A prophet is a prophet is a prophet. Everything's important when it comes down to it. Okay? We just have more background, we have more struggle, we have more idea, and again, many of these books obviously we go into messianic things, and we can look at parallels, and we can look at all these other fun things and the hidden things with Ezekiel. A lot of this has to do with a lot of things that, well, quite frankly, a lot of people just don't understand. Okay? And this is like revelations in the sense we need to look at what they understood, and we need to try and break it down to get us to the point where we can look at these things and we can go, what did he understand this to be? And thankfully, Scripture, in most cases, is self-interpreting. Right? I don't understand what I saw. Let me tell you what you saw. And so we go on. Okay? For the breakdown of the book, we could basically, very broad stroked, break it up into 3 or 4 main parts. Okay, so we've got chapters 1 to 3, the call of the prophet. Okay. And this is what we're going to be focusing a bit on this, obviously, for some fun, but I'm going to throw in some parallels there a little bit later. Then we've got the second part of the group from chapters 4 to 24. We're basically talking about, well, let's do this. Condemnation, broad stroke again, and this is mainly for God's people. From 4 to 24, and from 25 to 32, we talk about the nations surrounding Israel, 7 of which get smacked. Okay, so we have 1 block. If you want to, you can subdivide this into 2 blocks. And then we've got, very similar to Isaiah, consolation. Okay, and that's from chapters 33 to 48. Okay, now this again, if you want to, we can break this section up here, and I'm going to do it on the side. So 33 to 37 talks about Jerusalem's promises. We've got chapter 38 and 39, which we discussed quite in depth, Gog and Magog. And then we've got from 40 to 48, we're talking about this new temple and a new Jerusalem. Not the new Jerusalem, but a new Jerusalem. Okay? Now we have to understand that as Ezekiel is going through these motions, you can well see, does this look like it's in chronological order, or does it look like it's arranged in topical?
I thought it was subject matter.
Topical subject matter, right? So he's dealing with, okay, if we're going to be talking about condemnation, this is our condemnation section. Generally, we're going to be moaning and you're going to be hearing about what you're doing wrong. If we're going to be talking about promises and coming back and what God is going to establish, that generally forms a consolation section. Okay? So we're looking at themes. When you look at Isaiah and those sort of things, it is in theme order. Okay? So don't get too hung up on, we're reading chapter 1, 2, and 3, and this is the order from his birth to his death. That's not the way the book is arranged. Okay? Alright. So this is a prophetic book, obviously, but it's also got, we've got prophecy and biography. What's going on with the prophet, where he is, what he's dealing with. Alright? Before I give you timelines. else are we going to see? We're going to see 4 visions. Okay? And that 4 visions, again, chapters 1 to 3 is vision 1. Vision 2, it's the call, that's the glory of God. Jerusalem, temple, his people. And that's from chapters 8 to 11. Which you know, I will do advanced yet.
Carry the one.
Carry the 1 plus 2, 3. Okay, we're looking at from 37 verses 1 to 14. Okay, and vision number 4, which is 40 to 48 chapter, and restore the temple. Okay. So we're going to get 4 specific visions, and then if you wanted to break it up even more, there are 4 events that go along with the visions. So the 4 events, first one is the call. Okay? This is a big event in his life. The central figure, and that happens down here, right in the middle of these 2 chapters. Something quite traumatic happens to the prophet, or can anybody have any idea what that is? You get
His wife died.
His wife died. God prophesies that his wife is going to die. And that happens smack bang in everything. That happens at 24, verses 15 to 17. And we'll establish why that was the case a little later. Okay, just know that pretty much the entire book splits itself right there. Okay, the second one is the prophet's loss, which is what we just spoke about. Okay, so that's chapters 1 to 3. This is chapter 24, verse 15 to 17. I'll get out of your way in a minute. Number 3, we call it the renewed call. Okay, and that's 33, verses 1 to 20. And 4 is the full explanation of what and why and where. And that's 33, verses 21 to 33.
Man, just.
Vision number 3? Yeah, I'm
Which one?
Vision 3, this is chapter 3.
Yeah. Go to 37 and tell me what you see there.
Also,
That's the dry bones.
Oh, that's the inheritance section.
Right. So, it's one of those the biggest portions that people, you can say inheritance, you can talk about,
new covenant,
new
covenant of peace.
covenant, everything that comes in there, etc., etc. All right.
And then when it splits where his wife dies, what is the chapter there?
24, verse 15 to 17. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Okay. All more or less similar to where you are?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Give me a shout when you're ready.
What does one say there?
Which one?
The fourth vision?
Explanation.
No, on top, the
A
vision.
restored
A
temple.
vision, a restored temple. All right, speak. Yeah, I'm trying to
I
run.
read rebuild, so
It's fine.
same thing. The table title. In the window.
Number 2, events, that's prophets and...
Prophet's loss, renewed call,
Table.
and then explanation. Okay. Right.
It's all wood. skinny, but you're not that
So
skinny.
you like Chinese?
Used to be skinny.
Them games is working for you, eh?
Everyone wants to be like mine.
Mess builder.
Okay. All right.
He's studying my eyes.
Are the hamsters unpacked yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Look guys, this is just general outline, and then obviously we're going to look at these things, and this will just give you a guideline in the beginning of the book. You can take this, you can stick it over there, and you can say, I'm in chapters 1, 2, and 3, or what am I dealing with? Basically, God calling the prophet to get him out. In chapters 4 to 24, I'm dealing with the condemnation of God's people. General broad scope, there are things that he's going to talk about that are going to be hope and etc. But most of all, the theme generally follows that pattern. Okay?
But by then he was already in captivity.
Well, we're going to discuss this in a minute.
Okay, sorry.
That's good. We need to understand the timeline. We need to understand where Ezekiel fits into it. Okay? That's why I said you need to look at his contemporaries as well to understand who he was prophesying, who was before him, who came after him, who did he know of, what books were popular in that time, etc., so we can understand the mindset. Okay, that we can identify with timeline, but before I get to timeline, I want to give you a breakdown quickly. Another one where you can just kind of cross-reference a few interesting little parallels before we get to the big parallel, which kind of sets up the entire book, which is part of the call. All we need is Ruth, and then we'll be complete.
It's coming.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody got more or less?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
From Revelations in there.
Revelation's all over the place. You can see that in the same.
Revelation is very one time in Ezekiel.
Yeah.
So therefore,
So therefore,
I think Ezekiel.
maybe you'll be studying Revelation today.
What journey to Daniel?
Revelation 2.0, what you thought you understood, now you're going to come back and watch. All right, we've got a couple of parallels, as Uncle Trev just mentioned, between Ezekiel and Revelations. So I'm going to throw in some chapters. First one is chapter 1. You're going to parallel that with chapter 4 mainly and 5 as extra. So that's the first one. 2. Chapter 3, verse 3. Chapter 10, verse 10. Chapter 3, verse 3, and chapter 10, verse 10. What you're going to pick up is there's going to be similar language. Okay? The third one is chapter 8, verse 3. This is chapter 13, verses 14 and 15. Chapter 9, and chapter 7. And the first one is chapter 10, and chapter 8, verse 1 to 5. Okay.
Too much.
Does anybody want to take a photo before this disappears forever?
Someone must take photo.
We just always take photos because the broadcast is too hard to see. Hey, Shorty.
Technical support.
Sorry.
So now we're getting complaints from the 6 people on
I think it's very cool. There's more people there than people.
But all those people that say, I'm too tired to drive, they must be watching. Now, there's this, they can't have excuses now.
Yeah.
This doesn't basically take away from.
Well, I'm too pregnant to come here. I'm gonna get a woman.
You
know that's been recorded forever.
I married the first one, okay, thank
Oh.
you.
That's a-
Come on, I got it.
That's in front of us, send it on the groups.
On there.
Are there any similar, I haven't really looked, to be honest, that's a bit of a tough question maybe. Are there any similar parallels between Ezekiel and Daniel? Because they were reasonably contemporary with each other. Well, I know.
It's again, with Daniel, it's Daniel's timeline that gives us basically a whole bunch of stuff that are coming in here. So obviously with Daniel, if you're looking at anything, you're looking at where this fits into Daniel's timeline. So there's going to be a lot of overlapping features, much like Revelation deals with. Yeah. But much like with Daniel, we have the issue of timelines within timelines.
Yeah.
Right.
Like wheels within wheels.
Yeah, which comes up from Ezekiel and Daniel.
I
Congratulations.
see what you did there.
All right. Okay, so basically we had 3 exiles from Babylon. Okay, you get 3 exiles and you get 3 redeems. Right? Okay. Revelation students pay attention when Babylon is mentioned, right? Okay, so the first one we look at is deportation in the year 606, okay? And our main prophet guy that went down to that was Daniel, right? The next one was in the year 597, and this is where good Ezekiel comes in. Okay? If you want to backdrop to that story, we've got 2 Kings 24. Okay, we'll give you exactly who, the what, the how, also Jeremiah 52. And that was under King Jehoiakim. Okay. Right. Next one.
Sorry, did you write Jeremiah or Isaiah? Sorry.
Jeremiah 52. Okay. And 586. What's important about 586?
The people that were first
Right, destruction of the temple. Okay, so here we go, temple gone. What does that tell you about Ezekiel?
It doesn't have a job anymore.
Remember, he's being deported.
Already.
Okay, he was deported in 597. But he was still around when he was still moving. He still had the idea of a temple. So you,
So he would have been wanting to have his temple back.
to come back, and then he probably couldn't understand the great, what are you talking about restoration, Abba, when the temple's still standing, temple crunch, other temple coming. Okay? So we have this sort of thing where he has to sort of wait because he doesn't fully understand what's with this temple and what's, we've already got one, what's going on, and then his temple disappears. And then he starts to understand. Okay, so there are sections in his lifetime where God is going to reveal things to him as he goes along. Okay, so here we have the rest have been deported. Give me a king. Who was the last king?
Nebuchadnezzar.
No, Zedekiah. Remember Zedekiah tried to hide, he tried to run away, and the last thing he saw was
His son's been killed.
his sons being killed before him, and his eyes were being put out, and he was taken into captivity. Okay? So that was the last straw. Zedekiah, remember, if you remember correctly, was put into power by the Babylonians, kept into power, then he rebelled against them, and that's why the treatment was so tough. You got your authority from us.
Are those top dates when they were born or when they started their
No, that's not starting ministries, these are when they were exiled.
Oh, when they were exiled.
When they were exiled. Okay, so when Daniel went across, remember he was a youngish guy, probably at that time, maybe early teens. Okay, we don't know exactly for sure. Alright? But the point is, when the guys went first, they were trained up and they were statesmen and they were the best of the crop. They were sent out and they were treated as such. Daniel went to, he was educated in the ways of Babylon, he was lifted up, and we find him in authority, we find him in power, we find him growing up. But he's already been there a while when a young Ezekiel starts coming across. Ezekiel actually mentions Daniel, right? And while they're busy dealing with exile in Babylon, we have a Jeremiah dealing with what's happening in Jerusalem. Okay, so you start to get the frame. All right. We know from Jeremiah there was a 70-year issue, and we have 3 waves of return, right? So if we take a look at Daniel, 70 years will come in. You're looking at the time of, around the time of 536. Some guys will have 539. The decree was issued then, but nobody left. Hence, people like them are putting their hair up. Okay? We have Ezra filling in details here, chapters 1 to 6. Okay? Our next one went to about 527.
Well, sorry, Ezra chapters 1 to what?
1 to 6.
Like Daniel or
With the story of Zerubbabel and then coming back.
Oh,
Okay? Zerubbabel. Okay? Here we have, in 527, the basic message of Haggai. And Haggai's message was, you have nice houses, but what about that temple you came back to build? Huh?
Yeah, because it was desolate.
You have to remember, they came back and they set up the altar, and the altar and the foundations were set, but they never really finished it. And they started to get back into the fact of, well,
They live in paneled houses, but the house of the fathers.
well, you know, when you stay 5 minutes down the road and you're busy doing God's business and someone says your whole family farm is 10 or 15 kilometers that way. So you're going to go out and you're going to go check to see what's going on, and you realize the house is still there and it's been a little neglected, and the farmland is pretty good and all the rest of it, and eventually the focus started to shift. I'm just going to go and take a short little absconsion from my duties over there. I'm going to take care of the farm, which I'm going to set up as my homestead, because this is where God promised we live in, right? And then we'll rotate, and then we'll get into it, and then eventually we're so busy being about our own house, and we've forgotten about the point of God saying, go and build me a temple when he came back, right? That's what Zerubbabel and we're sent to do. The next sort of setup of coming back was around the time of 516, and then we have a nice prophet who comes back, and he's got some other issues. What is the last prophet who has a little bit of beard in hand?
Is it Melech? No.
No. No, beard in hand is another thing.
isn't it Zechariah?
No, the captain slap your face off. Nehemiah himself. Right. He comes in and he sees them all busy and he's all the rest of it, and he goes, what is going on? You forgot why we got exiled in the first place. I'm still living in Babylon, still dealing with this thing, and you're so busy trading on Shabbat. So the scripture says he would grab their beard and he would, what do you think was left in his hand after you slap someone with a hand, beard, scribbles, all the rest of it? He did not like the fact that they were so willing to break the same thing that got them pushed into captivity. Remember, the 70-year thing was not about sacrificing your children. 70-year thing was because you forgot what Shemitah cycle. 490 years you didn't let my land rest, so for every cycle, you're going to stay in captivity for 70 years.
Sorry, so the dates on the right-hand side of 70 years is the restoration days.
This is when they started to come back to the land. Okay, so we have the story of a couple of different prophets in different locations. We have Jeremiah. Where was Jeremiah prophesying from?
Jerusalem.
Right, so old Jeremiah is in Jerusalem. Right, and he was dealing with all types of issues left, right, and center. We have an older Daniel by the time Ezekiel starts coming into power or into his call. Okay? So he's a younger man in it, and he looks at Daniel and he goes, yeah, this one. This is a man of God. But he's also growing up hearing about Jeremiah. And Jeremiah and some other boys wrote a popular book at the time, which is also in your Bible. What did we do after 586 when our temple is gone? So the book of Lamentations fits in here, and we're all very sad because we done broke stuff, and now Abba took a step down and be with us. And We can't understand why some of us are sitting in Babylon and why the people are busy, our temple is disappeared and all the rest of it. And we're still struggling to identify why we are sitting in Babylon / Persia, which will later become Persia, under Cyrus, and why now all this emphasis of God says you're getting out and you're going to Babylon, and God says you're coming back.
So is Jeremiah also older than Ezekiel?
Basically, we can gauge more or less
I don't think about much.
look a fair bit, because when Jeremiah goes in, he basically prophesies for about 46 years. Okay? He basically ends around 581, because remember, after the temple was destroyed, he was carted off. They said, what do we do now? God says, stay, rebuild, you'll be fine. And they said, you're lying again, and they took him off into captivity, and they ran off to Egypt, and he basically stayed out there, right? Until the time that we said. 586 gave us a time for the temple destruction. We don't hear much from him after that. He was already prophesying for 40 odd years. Okay? So Jeremiah was a fairly older guy coming in. The difference between Daniel and Ezekiel, again, is probably plus minus maybe 30, 40 years as well. Okay?
Isn't Daniel and Ezekiel more or less the same age?
No, Daniel went with the first group of people. Okay?
And he was in the teens.
He would have been, it says they took the young statement, those who came in. So you can gauge his age maybe about 15 years, but maybe 15, 20 year difference between the two. Not as much as maybe Jeremiah.
But I mean, by 597, 593, when Ezekiel started prophesying, he was 30 years old.
Yeah,
That would have made Daniel 50 years old.
No, you would have, remember, Daniel then went off first.
Yeah, but when he was
15.
Yes.
15.
So if he's
Yeah.
15, 17 years old there,
If-
if 593, he's 30 years old.
If we gauge, if we take that Ezekiel was 30 at the time of the beginning of the prophecy, right? 30 years when he came into service. That means we would have been pegged at around about the time of 622 BC. Okay? That would have been the year he would have been born. Okay?
You know?
So,
Daniel about 624.
but he refers to him as a slightly older statesman. So you could probably gauge, not like a massive age gap, but definitely there was a gauge. So you could probably say maybe Daniel at most was maybe about 14, 15 years old when he got caught off anyway too. Okay? The point simply being is they probably knew each other, they probably spoke about it, they probably both had we're reading about Jeremiah, etc., and trying to get this establishment of what God was trying to do at the time of his call. Okay?
In this New Doctor Study Bible, it says that Ezekiel was 18 when Daniel was 15, according to them.
Yeah, good luck trying to prove that.
Okay.
Okay? You can look at the sources and we can gauge more or less, but I haven't seen anything that is 100% conclusive that we can go, yeah, exactly, he was carted off at exactly that point. And that means we have to have birth dates, but we don't. Okay? So, at that best is a gauge. At least we are now starting to understand that we're coming into the point of, at the end of Jeremiah's witness, Ezekiel starts to get in. Okay? Daniel and Ezekiel probably know each other. We're looking at a timeline of, we're going off. Remember, Daniel was treated really well. The first guys that went out, the guys at Ezekiel's time were treated not as well. So we had the guys that were trained up, and then the second group of people that went in, well, they didn't get to get all the training and all the rest of it. They were used in different areas. Okay? So we have some sort of semblance of what we're looking at. All right. Interesting themes in Ezekiel. One of the things that you'll have is that Ezekiel will talk about reverence above acceptance. Basically, reverence above acceptance. This is God, this is what he said. If you don't like it, that's not my problem. That's what God said, and that counts first. And again, we sort of have the same understanding with Daniel, right? Similar to Daniel, funny enough, there is a specific title that he uses for God over 400 times. Anyway, what is the title that Ezekiel normally falls back on? Remember, Daniel never refers to God by the Tetragrammaton.
No.
Always refers to him as El Elyon, God Most High.
Yes.
Okay? Ezekiel sort of has something similar.
It's Adonai Elohim. That's what mine says.
I don't know, it says Sabaoth.
Okay?
I don't know, it's Sabaoth.
What is your translation say? That's Chris.
Adonai Elohim.
Adonai Elohim.
That's all over for mine.
What is it about that statement that he's making?
Ruler over all.
So I think that says the most to you and
Sovereign ruler. You are the ruler of. You are the sovereign of. And understand where he is. Who is ruler over everything? Where was he carted off to?
Babylon.
And then when we went into Daniel, then we look at a whole bunch of Nebuchadnezzars and all these guys who thought they were bigger and better than everybody else.
One is
Right?
master, you can go there.
Okay? He talks about the higher or the sovereign of. Reigning king is the title he uses. Okay? So he puts God in the place of complete ruler.
Sorry, can somebody just, that doesn't have Lord God only, tell me what that is?
They say, well, one is says Adonai Elohim, yours has
You take profit. Master, you take profit.
the master of, and that's where some translations get the obviously Elohim because it's the creator.
Sorry, isn't it Adonai Sabaoth?
No, I don't know say what it is about the Lord of hosts, that's a military title.
Yeah, military.
This is about his sovereign title. This is about him saying that he's ruler over all. Okay? And that rulership is now being, and it's interesting because when we look at it, the breakdown of the book, when we start talking about establishing who is ruling over everything at the end of it all, we know that it's not Babylon, we know that it's not Cyrus, we know that it is Allah, right? And that's what he's going to do. He's going to establish it, and he uses these titles to come into it. Okay? He is from which family?
Levi.
He's a Levi, but what specific? It actually mentions it.
Cohen.
Not just Kohen.
are we talking about Ezekiel?
Yes, I'm talking about Ezekiel.
Someone who's in Kastim.
He was from the Menfus.
Son of Uzi in the land of Kastim.
Okay.
Was he speed reading?
Speed reading, touching base,
Human
trying to
being?
figure out.
I think his dad was called Man.
Man.
It's
Get there.
a man of God.
Hey guy.
Guy.
Listen, all I see is UFOs.
Alright, I'll tell you
He's
what.
from Assyria, the Assyrian Empire, isn't
No, Syria is Syria.
he? He was.
Lost my pen.
He's from a Levite, but they trace his lineage back to a guy called Tzadok. Tzadok was in the Tzadokite priesthood, and then we'll trace you back to a covenanted peace that will take you back to a guy called Pinchas. Okay. So that's an interesting illusion because if you trace Tzadok, and we have the lineage of Tzadok, basically he pops up in the place of King David. 1 Kings 2 verse 35 is a reference. He actually aligns himself up with Solomon. And remember there was, I think it was Adoniah that wanted to be priesthood, and then Solomon actually puts in Tzadok as the high priest because he was actually working with David and establishing the story. Okay. So,
So if I understand correctly, he's from that lineage of that Sadoc from Solomon's son.
I believe so, yes. Okay, right.
Sorry, what's the name of it?
I have to look at the script. Okay.
In the-
All right. Let's get back into it. When we look at the call, first chapter,
Yes.
first section of the book.
Yes.
The call is chapter 1, 2, 3. All right? You are going to have cross references here that you should be looking at to give you a more concise understanding of what's spotting. Pick a page, Nigel.
43.
Just a minute.
Notes of
I have it. Okay. So, if we look at chapters 1, 2, 3, you're already going to parallel Isaiah 6, you're going to parallel Revelation 4.
Of course we are,
Right, why?
because that's how we roll.
That's how we roll. Okay? You have other references where we can look at Moses at Sinai, and you can also have another look where you look at, I'll give you a clue, Penuel. Who was set up as Penuel? What's Penuel mean?
Must be Manuel's cousin.
It's not in
The face off?
No, how's
Right, it's the face off. Yeah, the wrestling line, right? So Yaakov's establishment as well.
I might.
I think we got Moses from it, I think we got the Sinai part. So that was a way into Moses.
Where was the burning bush?
Was, okay.
On Mount Sinai. He still tells him, I will come you, the sign for you is that you will bring them back to this mountain and worship. He brings them back to Sinai. Right? So what we have here is, the thing is why this is important, guys. Okay? Isaiah's call is one of, remember, he gets lifted up into heaven. God calls him. What was the main theme of what he saw? He saw seraphim, he saw, what do you want to call them, seraphim or cherubim? Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Angels.
Yeah, he saw angels. His description is 6 wings. Ezekiel will have a slightly different description. And then we will see a moment of a coal and some tongues, and what happened?
You can only tongue.
Why did they think that was a good idea?
Because he purifies now.
What was his confession? What did he say to get to them?
I have lips of
He said, I've got unclean lips.
I'm circumcised.
I am an unclean man living with unclean lips, living amongst unclean people. Right. So I am completely unclean. I'm standing in, and what are the seraphim, and what are they crying out the whole time? Holy, holy, holy. Remember Leviticus? The entire book of Leviticus is brought up to a triangle that talks about what? Unclean, clean, and holy. How do I go from one tier to the next? That is what the Levites are supposed to understand. That which is unclean, can it be deemed and made clean? If it is clean, how then does it become kadosh? If it is kadosh, can it become clean or unclean? Absolutely, in many cases, in some cases, there's no, if you're unclean, you're unclean. Right? But I need to understand it from a sacrificial point of view. I need to understand it from a worship point of view. And when you study the laws of unclean and clean, you need to understand that it has to do particularly with the sanctuary. Okay? It is about coming up to worship in a state of the Mishkan, and what you put in and out of your mouth is sort of the side thing of understanding what unclean and unclean is, what animals you can offer. Alright? But you have the call of Isaiah, which is a big moment because it's a big call. Then you have Revelations 4. Who gets this moment up in heaven? John. Yochanan gets this massive moment. You can parallel with Sinai, the burning bush moment. Moses gets his call. Yaakov wrestles with God. Okay? He says he wrestles with the divine. But he names the place Penuel, which is the face of God. Okay? And now we start to ask the question, was it just an angel or was it God? Why would you call it the face of God? Okay? So, in my opinion, and that's just my 3 cents worth, the name gives away what was going on, and he received the blessing and his name changed. The only time we ever see a name change is when God changes the name. Right? And then he goes from Yaakov to Israel. Right? So, we're already looking at parallels between the call of the prophet, and the bigger the call, the bigger the work. That should give you something. Isaiah's call, let's just learn it quickly. Where are we? I know we've got time. Go to Isaiah 6 quickly. Isaiah 6. Alright. You all there with me?
Yeah.
Okay. In the year of Yahuwah's I saw Adonai sitting on a high lofty throne. The hem of his robe filled the temple. Seraphim stood over him, each with 6 wings. 2 for the covering of his face, 2 for the covering of his feet, and 2 for flying. They were crying out to each other, more holy than the holiest holy. Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tzeba'oth, the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is filled with his glory. The doorpost shook at the sound of their shouting. The house was filled with smoke. Now remember, the house in rabbinic writing, in rabbinic understanding, is an illusion to what? The temple, right? The Mishkan, the sanctuary, right? It's filled with smoke because we have incense offering. Okay? Woe to me, I too am doomed, because I'm a man with unclean lips, living among people with unclean lips. And I have seen with my own eyes the King Adonai Tzeba'oth. One of the seraphim flew to me with a glowing coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from the altar. He touched my mouth with it, and he said, "Here, this has touched your lips. Your iniquity is gone. Your sin is atoned for." Okay, that's an interesting picture. Why do we use that one? Are we talking about the brazen altar, or are we talking about the altar of incense?
I think it's also incense, because that was not the foreign fire, which the other act started about.
Well, you can't have foreign fire in heaven, right?
No, so it would have been incense.
Probably the incense altar, because judgment has already passed for you to get into the presence of God. Okay? So he's talking about what has been atoned for, but the atonement process happens before you get to the
The
incense.
tent, yeah, at the
No,
entrance.
but the coal, they used the same coal, I remember that story. When God lit the coal, they took that and they used it for the rest of the...
Very much so. They took that coal from the altar outside, well, not in the outer court, and they brought it on the inside, and they used those coals for it. So that which has been atoned for can then enter into the presence. Right? Then I heard the voice of Adonai saying, whom should I send? Who will go for us? I answered, I am here, send me. There's a wonderful phrase in Hebrew. Hinani.
How do you spell that?
Hineni. It means I'm here. I'm present. Okay?
Is this happening for real or is it a dream?
That is true.
So didn't that coal burn his lips?
Well, some commentators would like to think he said yes.
What,
So when he woke, when he basically snapped out of his vision, his lips were a little bit sizzled. That's a possibility, I can't tell you for sure. But this is for real happening. He's seeing God in his fullness, and again, he's sitting there going, I'm doomed. Why am I doomed?
Because no one sees God alone.
And lives. Right? Well,
He's allowed.
Yaakov had a similar issue, right? And he says, oh, that's it. Oh, who has seen the divine and lived, right? So it kind of has a precedence before. So he goes, I'm here, send me. He said, go and tell these people, yes, you hear, but you don't understand. You certainly see, but you don't get the point. Who does that sound like?
Moses.
No. Yeshua. Yeshua went up and he was talking to them and he spoke to them in parables and he says, you see the miracles, but for what? You come and follow after me like you're looking for a show. Okay? I'm talking to you, but you're not clicking who I am. Why am I doing this? You're missing the point completely. Right? Make the heart of this people sluggish and fat. Stop up their ears and shut their eyes. Otherwise, seeing with their ears and hearing with their, or seeing with their eyes and hearing with their ears, their understanding with their hearts, they might repent and be healed. Now that seems like a mean verse, right? What's he talking about? Does God want anybody not to be saved?
No.
No. We know his heart is for life. So why then would he make that statement?
Because we're just talking about the Jewish people.
Who else before has gone to a point where God says, all right, you've made your choice, now I'm going to use that against you?
Pharaoh.
Right. You have hardened your heart so many times. I'm going to use your stubbornness to get my glory anyway. This is a point where these guys, remember, they got to the point where they were sacrificing their own children. That's how dark this is. Fake gods everywhere, children being killed, this has got no problem, and he goes, all right. Do you think that this is the first prophet to go out and say this is a bad idea? No. They've had prophets continue. And yet, they still don't listen. They have Torah, they still don't listen. They've left and negated everything, and then they go, well, what's the point? Well, then Abba says, all right. You're going to understand judgment now. You're going to understand what it means to mess with innocence, and you're going to understand what it means to be part of my land. You worship me in my land. If you don't, you go worship the foreign god in their land. It's a very simple thing. You know, your parents do this to you all the time, right? In my house.
I did.
Right? Says, well, but think about it. One day you're going to have kids and they're going to say, I'm going to do whatever I want. And you're going to be like, well, if you want to live there, you're going to live according to my rules.
Bring me that goal.
And we do that. And remember, we need to understand that God has an inheritance for a people. He has the land, which is a gift to them that they can use. He's going to bless it if they walk with Him and they get to be a light unto the nations. Forget your purpose, you forget your inheritance. You leave because you're not performing your function. What's the point of a light who doesn't want to shine? I'm going to remove the light, I'm going to be putting it in a cupboard, and I'm going to get a new one. Because I have a function and a purpose that I need for it to provide. Right? Simple truth. I asked Allah how long. He answered, until cities come uninhabited, ruins, houses without human presence, and land utterly wasted. Until Allah drives the people far away, and the land in one vast desolation. If even a tenth of the people remain, it will again be devoured. But like a pistachio tree or an oak whose trunk remains alive, after its leaves fall off, the holy seed will be its trunk. Okay, so there's going to be a dead and then it's going to come back to life. Right? And we get to see that play out. We get to see that play out in Yeshayahu, who was talking to the northern tribes of Israel, and he was also talking to Judah. He gave warning. Remember, he was dealing with Hezekiah at the time, and then Manasseh came, and then Balagans came, and then Babylon came. Okay? Well, more or less okay with the issue of women there. Okay. So that'll give you a picture of what's going on in heaven. Alright? While we're there, let's go to Revelations 4 so you can have this basically backdrop in your mind before we go in.
Starting.
Okay, so remember, he basically gives you the introduction. This is who we are. Chapters 2 and 3 deal with the churches at the time. Chapter 4, after these things, give us the separation of the book. Metatata. After these things I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven, and a voice was like a trumpet, which I heard speaking with me before, said, come up here, and I will show you what must happen after these things. Instantly I was in the Spirit, and there before me in heaven stood a throne. And on the throne was someone sitting. The one sitting there gleamed like diamonds and rubies, and the rainbow shining like emerald encircled throne. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and on the throne sat 24 dressed in white clothing, 24 others dressed in white clothing and wearing gold crowns on their heads. From the throne came 4 lightnings, voices, thunderings, and before the throne were 7 flaming torches, with the 7-fold Spirit of God. In front of the throne was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. Okay? And then it goes on. Chapter 5 talks about further things that he gets to see. But you see the same thing. You get to see jewels, you get to see God, you talk about majesty, you talk about the Spirit of God, etc., etc. Okay? You guys can go into it and you can draw parallel between the two. Now go to Ezekiel 1.
Who are the 24 elders?
Well, show me on YouTube, Revelation Study, chapter 4. If you were here, you would have understood. Interestingly enough, out of Isaiah and Ezekiel and all the other prophets that see God in heaven, only in Revelations do we see humans in heaven. You need to ask yourself why. Okay. Chapter 1. In the 30th year, on the 5th day of the 4th month. Okay, now many take it to believe that that is the time of his 30th birthday. If it is the time of his 30th birthday, why is that important?
Would it be?
So you're going into the priesthood, you'll be eligible to vote.
Right, that's when you go into full service as a Levite. Right, and if he is the Levite, he should have been looking forward to coming into his presence. Parallel this with Yeshua for me.
No.
He starts ministry.
He's ministry at the age of 30. Why? Because at 30, according to God, you come into the fullness of maturity of your what?
Your call.
I'm back in track according to that. Was it not the means what I think it's Deuteronomy and Leviticus that actually required you at the age of 30 you come into your calling?
That was Leviticus.
Actually, it starts at 20.
20.
You start being trained. You get trained as a Levite for 10 years before you go into full service. 10 years of training.
And then at
10
50.
years of understanding how to cut, where to cut, what to eat, what not to eat, where to put blood, etc., etc. But that's for the Levites. As Yeshua is an interesting play there because his mother's side was part of the Levitical, right, the Levitical priesthood. But the fullness of your spiritual maturity happened at 30. This is what they understood. Okay, so you never found a rabbi under the age of 50. Okay? You really go into ministry at that time. You take up your call as the Levites did and you stand and be counted. Okay? So at his 30th year, he's going, where should I be?
Not in Babylon.
Not in Babylon. Not staying in pagan temples. I should be in Jerusalem. Right? So again, 597. Okay? 30 years old.
This is 593.
Where? With Ezekiel.
Yeah, they say he started writing in 593. He was exiled at 597.
Well, I'm saying from the time he left. From the time he left, as he came into the time the temple was destroyed. Okay? His mind would have been focused on Mishkan, the temple, and he would have been focusing on this is my calling, this is who I am, but instead at the age of 30 he gets a different call. Parallel Jeremiah here. Jeremiah was a priest who was turned into a prophet. Right? Same story with Ezekiel. And it's funny that Jeremiah's call is going just as, if I could draw a linear line, the end of his call happened just after 586, 581, and Ezekiel's just starts as Jeremiah's is winding down. It's almost as if God is saying, one priest prophet gets overtaken by another priest prophet. I'm going to raise up because the job's not done here. Okay. So, yeah, the next one's Yeshua, right?
So, sorry, is this about 30, does the book start about 30 years before his exile? Is that what
Well,
you're
no,
saying?
it's 30 years and he's in exile. He probably went in as a youngish guy and then he's probably been in there for about 10 or 12 years, but in his 30th year he should have been actively going into the priesthood in Jerusalem, but he's finding himself in Babylon. Okay,
Yes.
right. So I was among the exiles by the Kafar River. The heavens were open and I saw visions of God. On the 5th day of the month, which was during the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's exile, the word of Adonai came to the Kohen Ezekiel, son of Butzi, in the land of the Chasdim, by the Kafar River. There the hand of Adonai was on him. That's an interesting phrase. We see it a lot in Daniel. What happens when the hand of Adonai was on Daniel?
Because what's the sign?
No. Remember, he was like flat down on his face and he couldn't even lift his eyes. And then he says, speak, beloved of God. And he couldn't even look up until someone touched him. And then he gathered strength. And he was still stammering. And then he was touched again. It was one of his visions. He was touched 3 times just to be able to look in the general direction and have a conversation. Strengthened supernaturally, God touching them to empower them so that they can speak and experience what they need to experience at that time. I've had it once before. When God appears to you, the only thing you want to look at is the floor. You cannot and will not look up. You dare not. You don't call out. You don't say, hey, Abba, what's cracking again? The fullness of His majesty, you will not even utter a name. You fall flat down on your face and you sit down and you look at it. And those of you who had it you can verify this, or you can tell me if I'm talking nonsense. You know, 2 or 3 witnesses. and you're sitting flat on the face, and all you can do is prostrate yourself and look, and you just feel the presence hovering over you. That's it. That's you. You need him to strengthen you if you want to even hear the word. I did not see him. I felt the Shekhinah of God, and that was enough to send me to a point where if he showed me any more, I would be dead. I shared it with you before. My heart was sore for 3 days. 3 days physically ached. If he showed me any more of himself, Vince wouldn't be here today. Unless it was another prophet somewhere lying around that was going to come and resurrect me. I don't know what I was going to do, but that was pretty much what
I know how to do that.
Next week, practice.
I'm very
Been studying the word.
Very grateful. Next technique is not imperfection.
Soon.
It's one of the strangest things in Scripture. When you hear about Elijah and resurrecting someone. You know,
The little boy.
Says he put palm to palm and face to face.
And toe to toe. I
And
think
go
it was.
to toe, so basically line on opposite verse.
Yeah.
No, it's like, and then started to move them up and down, move their hands, and then it says, they started to get warmer and life started to
Did that a few times.
Me, I wouldn't be very nervous, wake up and see this big hairy man on top of me. But anyway, that's just the way my mind works, and that was a crazy miracle. All right, so. Yeah, I mean, when you imagine it, it seems a lot stranger than it is.
I said to her, you could be glad it wouldn't be Chris though.
Well, if we're dead, I think we'd be very glad to be Chris. So it doesn't matter. I looked and saw a windy storm approaching from the north, a huge cloud with flashing fire, glowing brightly all around in the color of gleaming amber from within the fire. And the word amber here doesn't exactly mean like a yellowish tinge, it's a silver and gold mixture. So we're starting to see already parallels. We've got lightning, we've got thunder, we've got bright light coming forward. Inside there appeared to be 4 living creatures that looked like human beings. Each had 4 faces and 4 wings, and their legs were straight and their feet were calves' hooves. They glittered like burnished bronze. Beneath the wings they had human hands on their 4 sides, and 4 of them had faces and wings as follows. They touched one another with their wings. They did not turn when they moved, but each one moved straight forward. As for the appearance of their faces, they had human faces in front. Each of the 4 had a lion's face on their right. Each of the 4 had a bull's face on their left. Each of the 4 had an eagle's face at the rear, and thus their faces. Did I miss one? Yeah, one or two.
I said bull is fox.
All right. Thus their faces. As for the wings, each 2 were stretched upward and joined those of others, and 2 more that covered their bodies. Okay, let me stop there, just for a second. Okay.
What?
We see these 4 face ideas already in Revelations. Now we've discussed this, right? So we have interesting depictions. The first one is 4 Gospels. Right.
Sorry, Vince, I'm just confused because there's only 3 animals, so.
And the fourth-
But there's 4 faces.
The fourth face is the human face.
And the human face. Yeah.
Just to be fair.
All right. So then we have a lion,
Eagle.
calf, or a bull, or an ox, a man, and an eagle, right? Okay. And if you remember correctly, when we look at that, if we look at, if we're going to make a parallel, some authors have done this. I found this interesting, so I'll give this to you. Matthew was a Levite as well, okay? And he was very much in the case of proving the Lion of Judah, right?
Yes.
That was his depiction. The calf, they talk about service, or the servant. And Mark is very much the case of discussing about his service, okay? The man was Luke, because he was the doctor, so he was more about proving the man, and he starts his genealogy not like Matthew does. Where does he start it from?
Adam.
Luke from Adam, which is the first man. Okay? The eagle, we talk about John because he wants to talk about the deity of Christ. Okay. So that's one illustration. So we're looking at 4 facets of who Yeshua is in a sense. The second one is we start looking at the camp. Okay? And remember the encampment had, we had the encampment of Judah, which had Issachar and Zebulun with him, and that was the east. Okay? We had Ephraim, and that was Manasseh, and Benjamin. Good old Benjamin.
Sorry, can I rewind you?
Right?
Can I rewind you back to the eagle, John, the deity thing?
Yeah.
I lost you.
Well, you talk about the deity of, so that which has risen up again, like lifted up on eagle's wings, he who hovers like an eagle over the nest is also a description is Shia when God talks about himself bringing destruction on.
But when you say it next to John, it's because of the white dove that came down.
No, he's talking about his deityship. He's talking about him being lifted up higher than anything else. That's eagle. Okay? But also when you look at Hosea, there's a mention of an eagle hovering over its nest, and he was talking about the destruction of his going to bring. Okay?
But the eagle also represents the prophet.
Yeah.
Also represents the prophet.
So here, south we have Reuben, we have Simeon, and we have Gad, and then we have Dan, which has Naphtali, and Asher. Okay. North. Okay. Now, if you remember, if you want, I don't know why I can do the numbers for you. This encampment added up to 186,400. I'm getting this from numbers. This is 108,100. This is 151,400. And this is 157,600. Right? So two more or less the same size, north and south. Okay? One extremely long one.
East.
Okay? And one longer than the other.
Oh, wow.
That's the way the encampment would look from the top.
Amazing.
Okay. When you look at the standards of each flag, now this is one of the interesting little setups, is everyone makes sense except for one. Judah, what do you think their flag look like?
Lion.
A line.
It's a lion. Ephraim,
No.
The
ox, or a calf. Okay? Reuben
man.
was a man. Dan's flag, even though we have the blessing of it or the curse of Dan being a serpent, when we go back into ancient missionary writings, it doesn't say it was a serpent, but an eagle. So when you look at the cherubim and the 4 faces of the cherubim, you're actually talking about the sanctuary. And you're actually talking about where God dwells, which fits the context perfectly. Right? Because to get to the center of the camp, where what was here was the Mishkan, and what was here was Moses' tent, little M, big M. Right? But in the midst of it, you had the cherubim coming, blocking the path, as it were. And then you have that same image of the tent door was here, and that was going white.
So it's going in.
Right, it was almost as if your parallel is that it was restoring Eden, where the cherubim were blocking the way to the tree of life.
And Yeshua.
Right,
That's it.
are you guys with me?
Yes.
Okay, so we have these sort of pictures and these parallels of what they're doing, and again, Yeshua is featuring in all of this. Okay.
Sorry, but it's not. I just want to understand probably you're saying these 4 trees are a picture of the sanctuary.
The 4 tribes standards that were around, surrounding the sanctuary. Each one had a flag. Right. And the standard of, out of this one, it was Judah's camp. Out of this one, it was Ephraim's camp, Reuben's camp, Dan's camp. And each one had a symbol. And they just happened to be the 4 faces of the cherubim. Okay, so I think what God is trying to tell you is that what you saw as a picture on earth, you're getting ready to the grips of the fullness of the sanctuary of what's going on in heaven. Okay? Okay. With them, I'm reading from verse 13. With them was something that looked like fiery coals between the way the torches do, with fire flashing here and there between the living creatures. The fire had brilliance, and out of the fire went lightning. The living creatures kept speeding here and there like flashes of lightning. As I gazed at the living creatures, I saw wheels on the ground, one next to each of the four-faced living creatures. All four wheels looked the same. Their inner parts gleamed like pearl, and their structure seemed to be that of a wheel inside a wheel. When they moved, they could go in any of the four directions without turning. They moved. Their rims were tall and fearsome because of the rims of all four were full of eyes all around. When the living creatures moved, the wheels moved along with them, and when the creatures were lifted off the ground, the wheels went with them. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they went in the direction the Spirit wanted to go. The wheels were lifted up next to them because of the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When the living creatures moved, the wheels moved, and the former stood still, the latter stood still, and when the former was lifted off the ground, the wheels were lifted up next to them because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Okay.
UFO.
We have no idea what they're supposed to look like and what they possibly could be. Some people believe that during, you see these funny sketches of some sort of like wheel within a wheel, that this is now perfect movement, and the circular thing is now supposed to help them glide across and lift up and do whatever. I think what we need to understand is that it's talking more about functionality, and he has no clue of how to describe what he's seeing. Okay? So he's looking at it from his viewpoint, and if we understand what his viewpoint is that he's understanding it from a priestly background. Okay? So that again brings us to our cyclical seasons and what things are going on. Okay? Everything within the movement and everything according to the Lord. Okay? If he takes us back to the camp, that which the Shekinah lifts up, and accordingly the camp in its order and what is going on moves accordingly.
Yeah. It's almost like, a picture of the movement in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So all four creatures moved in the direction the spirit inside of them went.
The Shekinah.
Yeah.
Right.
Directed them.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, some people teach that this is in fact a mobile heavenly courtroom, but I can't actually see anything in this portion of scripture that points to that. I'm not actually, I've really looked at it now and said, really, I don't see that. I don't really understand where they get that from. Have you heard that before?
No. I mean, I don't see why
I just wondered if you knew about that.
No, it's specifically
the
talking
teaching
about.
that's going around at the moment. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know how they got to that.
No, so
But you might know.
I wish I could help, but I can't. What I do see there is that this cherubim, it depends now and again, because sometimes scripturally you'll see them called seraphim, but they have 6 wings. We've got a description of 4 here, right? And the cherubim fits our context more with the blocking of the Garden of Eden. Mainly that are going on here, but I believe he's talking about that and the functionality of the camp, which is going forth, not so much the inner circle and how the altar of incense and all those other things. Okay, it doesn't even mention it. Over the heads of the living creatures was what appeared to be a dome glittering like ice. It was also spread out over their heads above them. Under the dome, each had a pair of wings spread out toward those of others, and each of the pair which covered his body. I heard the sound of their wings when they moved, and it was the sound of rushing water, like the voice of Shaddai, like the noise of the tumultuous crowd of an army. Does that sound familiar in Scripture? Right? We see that with the sound of a great shofar. We see the rushing waters popping up. We see that it is a great noise that sounds like it's deafening. And it is the voice of Abba. When they stopped, they lowered their wings. Whenever there was a sound from above the dome, above their heads, they stopped and lowered their wings. Above the dome, that was over their heads, was something like a throne that looked like gleaming amber-colored fire radiating from what appeared to be his waist upward. Downward from what appeared to be his waist, I saw what looked like fire, giving a brilliant light all around him. This brilliance around him looked like a rainbow in the cloud of a rainy day. As a Levite, what would a rainbow represent?
Well, it's the covenant.
Yeah. So a covenant-keeping God, someone that is all light, someone that is of, again, the Shekinah. These pictures of the encampment are coming back as he would have understood and grown up with that, looking forward to that sort of understanding, except it was Mishkan.
It's again Revelation 4 as well with the rainbow.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's why you probably sit down and do a list, and in fact, if you guys get bored, you can. Take up Isaiah 6, Revelations 4 and 5, and do a parallel of the different images, and you will see a fuller picture of what's in heaven. Okay, it's not one is more correct than the other, it's just described differently by different prophets and what they're focusing on.
Different
Okay?
times.
What was that? 26?
28.
This brilliance around him looked like a rainbow in the cloud of a rainy day. This is how the appearance of the glory of Adonai looked. When I saw it, I fell on my face and I heard the voice of someone speaking. On that cliffhanger, we'll call it tonight.
Because my brain
One
is
of
starting
them.
to explode.
Yeah, welcome to chapter 1.
Yes.
Gonna do some backup.
So, we will look at next week.
Here comes the trailer. Here comes the trailer.
Tune in next week, huh? We're going to finish up the call of Ezekiel. Okay, so we'll do chapters 2 and 3 to try and get us into the section of understanding. And again, hopefully now when you read it, you'll have a little bit more of an understanding of who he is, when he was, what time he appeared, what functionality he had in his mind that he was supposed to perform, and where he was supposed to go, etc. And what God is intending him to do, to which audience. Okay.
Okay, one now.
2 and 3. Now we got this.
Easy
This is
peasy.
like 10 verses. Alright. All happy? All confused?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's pray quickly.
There
Want us to pray.
We pray in unison.
We haven't had it last week, one last pray.
Pray time is every time.
It was great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the part of the spoke about Zacchaeus and Moses. Come here, brother. Come on.
Do we make a circle?
Hey, you gotta sit the back, make that circle, eh? Come make that line.
Pray for the stand to be good and easy.
Alright, let's bow it. Father, we just thank you that we can come into your presence. We thank you, Father, we just pray that you lead us to this book. Father, I pray that you would just go through us, Lord Father, to be able to get a clearer understanding, a clearer picture of what is to come, what you meant it to be, Father, and we pray that we just get out of the way so that you be able to give your truth. Father, we just thank you that we can come before you, Father, and we just pray for those that are sick, pray for those that are hurting, pray for those that are not sure, Father, and we also could pray that you go out before us if we're going to write exams, or if we're facing any sort of difficulties right now. Father, I just pray that you nullify the plans of the enemy. Father, I pray that you would establish this house, Father, this fellowship which you have called. I pray that you would establish our businesses, Lord Father. I pray that you would establish the relationships, Lord Father. I pray that you would unite us. Father, I understand that we can't all be the same, so I'm asking for conformity, Father, that we all just link shields, and we can understand that we're different, but at the same time, Father, understand that our truth is in you. So, Father, we just suggest our sons and daughters, and we just thank you for the privilege of being called yours, and we just thank you for this family. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.